You know that moment when you walk into a room and you feel like all eyes are on you. Your heart starts racing and you're convinced that everyone there is looking at you and dissecting every little thing about you. The way you're dressed, the way you're walking, even your facial expressions. Yeah, that was me a few years back when I got invited to a social event, gathering of some sort. As soon as I showed up to the event, I wished I could just run back out. Everyone there was in casual outfits. They were dressed in trousers, jeans, t-shirts, while I showed up to the event with my extravagant gown and my accessories. It was, I wish the ground would show up, would open up and swallow me. And throughout the event, I was convinced that everyone was staring at me. Whenever I saw people huddled up together, I knew it. I knew they were talking about the lady who just did not get the memo. It's safe to say I could not stay very long at that event because I was crushing under the weight of people's attention. This is what we call the spotlight effect. Think about it. Have you ever left the house and halfway through your day, you notice a stain on your shirt, or you stumble on the road while wearing a pair of heels, or while having a conversation with someone, you stumble over your words, and then at the end of the day, you're convinced that all they're gonna remember about you is that little mistake. That is what we call the spotlight effect. If this sounds like something you're interested in, well, stay behind and keep listening. I'm going to talk about what the spotlight effect is, why we care so much about what other people think about us, and why we think they're constantly judging us, how the effect the spotlight effect has on us, and the effect of social anxiety coupled, because they're tied together, you're gonna see, and how we can manage and overcome it. Well, let's get into it. What is the spotlight effect? The spotlight effect is a psychological phenomenon whereby we overestimate how much people notice and judge us for our looks, our appearance, our mistakes, our personality. We are convinced that we are the center of everyone's attention, like we're standing on a bright spotlight, and everyone is just sitting around watching our every action, when in reality, that is not the case. In fact, everyone is the main character in their own lives, and they were too concerned about their own spotlights. So you're a side character. You're just giving a passing thought in other people's lives. You're barely noticed. And that is a good thing. Why do we experience the spotlight effect? Why is it that in these our everyday lives, in this ordinary moments, we feel like our lives, every move is under constant scrutiny? Now, I'm not talking about if you're a model on a runway. There, you're literally under the spotlight. That is different. So why? Number one, cognitive bias. We are biased towards ourselves because we live with ourselves 24/7. So we are aware of our thoughts, we are aware of our experiences, we are aware of our mistakes, we are aware of everything about ourselves. So we think other people are as aware of us as we are aware of us. We are unable to accurately, step outside of ourselves and gauge how much people actually know about us and care about us. Number two, social comparison. We evaluate our own worth and abilities by comparing it to that of others. This is something that has always been done from the start. For example, when we were in school, there is a reason you have report cards. Oh, you did well, you didn't do as well as, this person, you got below average, so you're being compared. For example, you go up to a stage, or you are presenting a work, maybe in school or at work. Maybe you make a mistake, you stumble over your words. Then you start imagining, you're convinced that other people in the audience are comparing you to the person, the speaker who came before you, to the more confident and eloquent speaker who came before you. This comparison makes us feel like we are constantly being watched and judged. The way we watch and judge other people, the way they have always forced upon this comparison. So we believe this is what is happening all the time. Number 3, social and cultural influences. In certain cultures where personal achievements means a lot, public opinion, your reputation, all these things are valued very highly. It is natural in such environments to feel the pressure that you're being judged. Everything you're doing is being judged to see if you're up to standard. Number 5, low self-esteem and social anxiety. People with low self-esteem, they tend to experience the spotlight effect even more than other people. When you're insecure about certain parts of yourself, either your physical features or your ability, even the way you express yourself or your personality, you're more likely to assume that people judge you, people notice and judge you for this perceived flaws. The same thing with if you have if you have social anxiety. People with social anxiety, they have a heightened sense of the way they are perceived by other people. When they are in a situation where they feel out of place, they tend to believe people notice that about them and are judging them for it. So what are the effects of the spotlight effects? 1, self-consciousness. We become so hyper aware of our actions, we start overanalyzing everything. You start second guessing what you wear, what you say before you do anything. You think so many things. What if people think this? What if people judge me for this? And because you overthink every single thing, number 2, it leads to paralysis. You are paralyzed by fear. We start to avoid situations that make us feel uncomfortable. You avoid social situations. You don't go out anymore. You don't speak up in meetings anymore because you are worried that what you say is going to be judged. This leads to missed opportunities. So many opportunities that you could have had that would come your way. You end up pushing it away, both professionally and personally. I mean, can you imagine missing out on opportunities because you're too scared of what people might say? Perfectionism. When we constantly feel like we're being watched, we're being judged, you tend towards perfectionism. You want everything to be done just right. Every word to be perfect, every outfit to be flawless, every decision you make to be wise. But at the end of the day, you spend so much effort chasing perfectionism, and then you realize you can't be perfect. Perfectionism doesn't exist. And by the time you come to this realization, you think because you cannot reach perfectionism, you think you're the one not good enough. You start doubting yourself. It starts leading to low self-esteem. You can see where this is going. And this can, number 5, I think, this can take a toll on your mental health. Every interaction feels like a performance where you're scared of failing. It feels like you're standing all alone in the world and everyone else is judging you. And then you start having this distorted sense of reality where you believe that the worst things you think about yourself are the truth. You distance yourself from other people, and then you feel like other people are distancing themselves from you. It's just a terrible cycle. It prevents us from being authentic. We are unable to show ourselves to the world as we are because we think who we are is someone that it's not acceptable. And when we put on a performance, when we constantly put on a performance, we constantly put on a mask, it gets to a point you lose touch with who you really are. And that is a scary thought, for you to look into the mirror one day and not recognize the person staring back at you. How do we overcome the spotlight effect, and social anxiety. One, you have to acknowledge and recognize the truth that no one cares about you. For some people, that is a scary thought that causes depression, but you should not be looking for care and attention from strangers. You should be looking for it from the people around you. Number two, you have to challenge the assumptions you've made in your mind. For example, you discover a stain in your shirt halfway through the day, and you're thinking to yourself, people must have seen this. They must think I'm dirty, I'm sloppy, I'm disgusting. You have to take a breather. You have to pause and actually challenge it. Okay, did people actually notice? And if they notice it, did they really think I'm dirty and sloppy? You have to challenge these assumptions, and when you do, sometimes you realize you're just being really harsh to yourself. Number three, stop focusing so much on yourself. We get it, you're the center of your own world, but you have to look outward and focus on other people. See the way other people are living their lives. When you focus outward of yourself, it releases the burden a bit. Number four, show yourself some kindness and compassion. Don't be so harsh on yourself. True, maybe you have a certain flaw, but no one is perfect. Everyone has flaws. You made a mistake, that happens. So be kind to yourself. Number five, take small intentional risks. Okay? Put yourself in little uncomfortable situations. Don't just shut yourself away from the world because you're afraid of being judged. Don't miss out on opportunities. There's so many things you can miss out on just because you're scared of being judged. Maybe you like talking to people. You are denying yourself the joy by shutting yourself from the world. Maybe you are thinking of starting a social media channel, you're thinking of starting YouTube, but you're afraid of how people are going to see you. You're afraid of being judged on your features. You're afraid of people thinking you're stupid. So I guess, yeah. But try and maybe ask a question in public, little by little, and then you start to understand and notice that people don't care about you as much as you think. Even when someone does notice, they are less judgmental. They just think, oh, they have a stain on their shirt. And then that's it. They move on with their lives, with their phones, with their thoughts. Yes, there are definitely situations in life or scenarios we're in where we are actually being judged. We are under the spotlight. But those times, it is intentional. For example, you're giving a presentation either at school or at work, or you're going on a first date, or you're in a job interview. You know you're going to be judged, and you know what you're going to be judged on. Your appearance, the way you comport yourself, the way you answer some questions. These are situations where we are in a spotlight. So the spotlight effect refers to everyday normal situation, and you feel you are in the spotlight when you're actually not. If you come from a culture where humor is used as a tool, where they poke fun at your imperfections, for example, in Nigeria, they can say something like, how you can't look like stick for inside that clothes. Maybe you're someone that you're insecure about your appearance, and someone points out your imperfection, pokes fun at it. How do you, when you're in such a social setting, you come from a culture that is like that, how can you actually heal and feel like you're not in the spotlight when you're sometimes put in the spotlight in social situations? Number one, you have to understand that this is not meant in a malicious way. You have to see for yourself that this is how humor is used in your culture. You'll be able to, you see it not as a personal attack, but as a way of bonding in the society. Are there situations where you suffered from the spotlight effect, or opportunities you've missed out on because you were so concerned about what other people would think? Well, let me know down in the comments.